Predator: Badlands is a 2025 American science fiction action film produced by 20th Century Studios, which now operates under the Disney umbrella. The film was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, a filmmaker who has essentially become the driving creative force behind the modern reinvention of the entire Predator universe. Trachtenberg previously directed Prey in 2022, which was universally praised as a brilliant return to form for the franchise, and he also co-directed Predator: Killer of Killers in 2025, which was an animated anthology film released earlier that same year. So Badlands is actually the second Predator project he delivered in a single calendar year, which is an extraordinary achievement by any standard in Hollywood filmmaking. The screenplay was written by Dan Trachtenberg and Patrick Eisen, who also collaborated on Prey together. This creative partnership has clearly become one of the strongest forces behind the rebirth of this franchise. Additional literary contributions came from Brian Duffield, Brian Fuller, Patrick Somerville, and Ben Schwartz, though they are not credited on screen. In terms of where this film was physically made, principal photography took place entirely in New Zealand, with filming beginning on August 27, 2024 and wrapping in late October of the same year. Locations around Hamarana Springs and Rotorua were used to great effect, providing the wild, alien, and visually striking landscapes the story demanded. The production budget came in at approximately $105 million, and the film was produced under the combined banners of 20th Century Studios, Lawrence Gordon Productions, Davis Entertainment, Tollbroth Productions, and TSG Entertainment. One of the most important things to understand about Predator: Badlands as a piece of filmmaking is the creative philosophy and range of influences that Trachtenberg brought to the table. He publicly cited the visual and thematic work of Frank Frazetta and the cinematic style of Terrence Malick as major touchstones. He also drew from Conan the Barbarian, the character of Drax the Destroyer from the Marvel Universe, the classic Western Shane from 1953, the post-apocalyptic masterpiece Mad Max 2, Denzel Washington's The Book of Eli, classic Clint Eastwood westerns, and even the beloved video game Shadow of the Colossus. That is a breathtaking range of inspiration, blending sword and sorcery epic imagery, sparse and poetic Western storytelling, post-apocalyptic survival aesthetics, and the idea of a lone warrior facing an impossible giant. All of that layered creative influence shapes every frame of what Badlands ultimately becomes. Badlands is intended to be a self-contained entry in the series, meaning you do not need to have seen any other Predator film to follow and enjoy this one. Chronologically, it is set in the far future, after the events of both the Predator and Prey, expanding on the mythology of the Yautja species in ways the franchise had never previously attempted. The film is set in the distant future on a remote and hostile alien planet called Jenna, also known as the Death Planet. And right away, before a single frame of action plays out, the story does something the franchise has never done before. It makes a Predator the protagonist. The main character of Predator, Badlands, is not a human soldier, not a special forces operative, not a survivalist. It is a young Yautja warrior named Dek, played by Demetrius Schuster-Kalamatangi. Dek is an outcast. His own father, the leader of his clan, has deemed him unworthy. During a trial combat with his brother Quay refuses to kill Dek, an act of mercy that defies the clan's code. A confrontation then breaks out between Quay and their father. Before things escalate beyond return, Quay secretly programs a nearby ship to take Dek away, giving him a chance to survive and to find his own path. Dek is not escaping. He is being sent away by the one person in his clan who still believes in him. Rather than retreating to safety, Dek makes an extraordinary choice. He sets his course for Jenna, the Death Planet, A world so dangerous that it is considered essentially a death sentence for any warrior who lands on it. Dek chooses this world deliberately, because he needs to prove his father wrong. He needs to prove to his clan, to his lineage, and most deeply to himself, that he is worthy of being called a hunter. When Dek arrives on Jenna, the planet wastes no time in trying to kill him. The world is populated with ravenous and hostile flora and fauna completely unlike anything the franchise has shown before. But the most significant thing Dek encounters on Jenna is not a beast. It is a damaged Weyland-Yutani synthetic named Thaya, played by Elle Fanning. Thaya is an android sent to the planet by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation for research purposes. She is broken, both physically and in terms of her sense of purpose, and her situation mirrors Dek's in ways neither of them initially recognizes. What follows is one of the most unexpected dynamics in franchise history: a predator and a synthetic android forming a genuine alliance, learning to communicate, learning to trust each other, and ultimately working together to face the most terrifying creature on the planet. This buddy dynamic between Dek and Thaya has been widely praised by critics as the genuine emotional core of the film, and it works precisely because both characters are outcasts in their own way, searching for meaning and belonging. There is one more wrinkle to the cast of characters. Elle Fanning also plays Tessa, Thaya's twin sister, who is also a Weyland-Yutani synthetic but with a completely different personality. Where Thaya is warm, curious, and open, Tessa is cold, aggressive, and adversarial. Tessa opposes Dek and Thaya throughout the film, creating a fascinating dynamic where the same actress plays both ally and antagonist. There are no human characters anywhere in Predator: Badlands. The entire story takes place in a world of alien species, synthetic androids, and terrifying creatures. This is a bold and complete departure from every prior Predator film. The ultimate adversary that Dek must face is a creature called the Kalisk, a massive, terrifying beast with regenerative capabilities that makes it nearly impossible to kill. The Kalisk is the challenge that the Death Planet ultimately offers, and it becomes the test that defines whether Dek truly has what it takes to be the warrior his father refused to see. The confrontation between Dek and the Kalisk, with Thaya at his side, is the climax the entire film builds toward. A significant portion of the film also takes place on Yautja Prime, the Predator homeworld, which marks the first time in the entire history of the franchise that audiences actually see where the Predators come from. Yautja Prime is fully realized and visually stunning, giving the Yautja culture and society a depth and texture that previous films could only hint at. To make the world feel completely authentic, an entirely constructed language, the Yautja Codex, was developed specifically for the film by a linguist who is the mentee of the person who created the Gnostics language for James Cameron's Avatar. This level of linguistic detail adds genuine weight and believability to the world building, making the Yautja feel like a truly ancient and complex civilization rather than just movie monsters. In terms of overall tone, Predator: Badlands leans into adventure and emotional storytelling far more than horror. It plays like a road movie set in deep space. It is a story about two outcasts finding each other in the most hostile place imaginable, discovering that belonging is something you build with the right person, not something your birth or your clan automatically grants you. And underneath all the extraordinary creature design, alien visuals, and action sequences, there is a genuine and moving story about purpose, family, and what it really means to earn your place in the world. Elle Fanning stars in a dual role as both Thaya and Tessa. Fanning is one of the most accomplished and respected young actresses working in Hollywood today, with a career spanning well over a decade across independent film and major studio productions. Taking on a dual role as two synthetic androids with completely contrasting personalities is a demanding assignment, and by all accounts she delivers one of the finest performances of the film. As Thaya, she brings genuine warmth, vulnerability, and curiosity to a character who is technically not even human, making the friendship between her and Dec feel completely real and emotionally earned. As Tessa, she becomes something colder and more threatening, demonstrating real range across both roles. Her casting was confirmed in August 2024 after negotiations began in June of that year. Demetrius Schuster-Kalamatangi plays Dec, the young predator protagonist. This is an extremely physically demanding role. The predator suit used in the film is a practical costume, but the face is entirely digital, with visual effects handled by the legendary Weta Workshop based in New Zealand. Schuster-Kalamatangi wore the full costume and performed the role through both practical suit work and motion capture technology. Despite being entirely hidden beneath layers of costume and digital effects, his performance has been praised specifically for the emotional depth visible in Dec's eyes and body language. Getting genuine feeling across through a fully digital alien face is no small achievement, and his work has been highlighted as one of the reasons the film resonates emotionally. Michael Hammack plays Quay, Dec's brother, whose act of mercy at the beginning of the film sets the entire story in motion. Allison Wright also features in a supporting capacity. Sam Rockwell appears in the film in a role that reviewers found particularly entertaining, though details about the specifics of his character were kept under wraps ahead of release. And in a genuinely fun piece of casting, Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer, the creators of the massively successful Netflix series Stranger Things, also appear in the film in cameo roles. Release date: when in WHERE Predator, Badlands held its world premiere at the iconic TCL Chinese Theatre in Hollywood on November 3, 2025. It had its UK premiere at the BFI IMAX in London on October 28, 2025. The film then received its wide theatrical release in the United States on November 7, 2025, in both RealD 3D and IMAX formats. For home viewing, the film became available on digital platforms on January 6, 2026, and arrived on DVD, Blu-ray, and Ultra HD Blu-ray on February 17, 2026. As of February 12, 2026, the film is also streaming on Hulu and on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. The film carries a PG-13 rating in the United States and a 12A rating in the United Kingdom. Excluding the Alien vs. Predator crossover films, Badlands is the first mainline Predator film to receive a PG-13 rating. Trachtenberg has explained this was always the creative intention, partly because without any human characters in the film, the kind of graphic human violence that earned prior entries their ratings is simply not present here. The film runs at approximately 107 minutes. Trailer INFORMATIO and the first teaser trailer for Predator, Badlands was released on April 23, 2025, giving audiences their initial look at Dec and the world of Jenna. A second, more detailed 2-minute trailer followed on July 21, 2025, expanding on the story and the relationship between Dec and Thaya. The final trailer dropped on October 6, 2025, with an international version following on October 22, 2025. The music used across the trailers was performed by The Who, a Mongolian folk metal band, whose raw and primal sound matched the tone of the film perfectly. Box office and critical RECPTION Predator, Badlands grossed $185 million worldwide, which on a $105 million budget represents a solid commercial performance for a mid-budget science fiction film in the current theatrical landscape. At the time of its wide release, the film held an 86% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with an IMDb score of 7.2 out of 10. The critical consensus praised the bold creative direction, the stunning creature design, the world-building ambition, and both lead performances. Some longtime fans of the franchise felt the film moved too far from the horror-driven roots of the original 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger film, but the overwhelming critical response placed Badlands among the very best entries the franchise has ever produced. The future of the franchise. In an interview published in the July 2025 issue of SFX magazine, Dan Trachtenberg revealed that he had 3 Predator films in mind when he began this creative journey: Predator, Killer of Killers, Predator, Badlands, and a 3rd film he intends to direct if Badlands performs well enough. Given the box office results and the critical response, that 3rd installment looks very likely to move forward. On top of that, discussions are reportedly ongoing with Arnold Schwarzenegger about potentially returning as Dutch, his iconic character from the original 1987 film. If that happens, it would be one of the most highly anticipated returns in the history of science fiction cinema. That is the complete breakdown of Predator, Badlands, the overview, the production background, where it was made, who made it, the full plot details, the cast, the release dates, the trailers, the box office numbers, and everything coming next for the franchise. This is a film that genuinely took bold creative risks with one of Hollywood's most beloved monster franchises, and those risks paid off in a real and meaningful way. The world before the story begins. To fully understand Predator, Badlands, you need to understand the world it is built upon. The Yautja, the species that humans have long called the Predators, are an ancient and extraordinarily powerful warrior race. Their entire civilization is built on a single principle: strength is everything. Weakness is not just frowned upon, it is considered a fundamental disgrace to the clan, to the bloodline, and to the species itself. Yautja society runs on a strict and unforgiving hierarchy. The clan leader holds absolute authority. Warriors earn status through successful hunts. The weak are not pitted. They are culled. This is not cruelty for its own sake. To the Yautja, eliminating weakness is how the species remains dominant across the galaxy. Emotions like compassion, mercy, and attachment are viewed as biological failures, not virtues. They are liabilities that get warriors killed and drag down the collective. This cultural code, this absolute philosophy of strength above all, is the invisible wall that Predator, Badlands builds the entire story around, because the film's central question is this: what if that philosophy is wrong? ACT-1, Yautja Prime, The Outcast, and the Sacrifice. The film opens on Yautja Prime, the homeworld of the Predator species, and it is immediately clear from the visuals that this is a world of immense scale and power. Towering architecture, ancient statues, and a culture that radiates thousands of years of dominance. It is everything you imagine the Predator homeworld would be: ancient, brutal, and awe-inspiring. We are introduced immediately to 2 brothers training together in combat. The older brother is Quay, a powerful and accomplished Yautja warrior. The younger brother is Dek, and the contrast between the two is visible even in their physicality. Where Quay is large and commanding, Dek is noticeably smaller and less physically imposing by Yautja standards. He is what his species would call a runt. Among the Yautja, that word carries enormous weight. It does not simply mean small. It means unworthy. It means defective. It means a source of shame for the clan. During their sparring session, Quay bests Dek relatively easily. But what is interesting is the nature of their interaction. Quay is not cruel to his younger brother. There is genuine affection there. Quay looks at Dek not as a disappointment but as someone who is trying too hard to be something the clan demands of him. Quay understands Dek's desperation to prove himself, and that understanding is what makes Quay fundamentally different from the rest of his clan. Dek has already made a decision before the film opens its first scene. He has declared that he intends to travel to Jenna, a planet so dangerous that it has earned the name the Death Planet, and return with the skull of the Kalisk, a creature considered by the Yautja to be essentially unkillable. No Yautja has ever successfully hunted the Kalisk and returned. It is the ultimate test of a warrior because it is the test that no warrior has survived. Dek's logic is simple and desperate. If he can do what no other Yautja has ever done, then even his father cannot deny his worth. The father's name is Njor, and he is the clan leader, played also by Demetrius Schuster-Kaloamatangi in a dual role that mirrors Elle Fanning's dual role as Thea and Tessa. Njor is not a nuanced villain. He is the living embodiment of everything the Yautja Code demands, absolute, unsparing, and completely incapable of viewing weakness as anything other than an insult. When Njor returns from his own hunt and sees Dek still standing, his first response is chilling. He turns to Quay and asks why Dek is still alive. Not where has Dek been, not how is Dek progressing, but why is the runt still breathing? The implication is as clear as it is brutal. Njor had already instructed Quay to execute Dek. The clan leader considers his younger son's existence an ongoing embarrassment to the bloodline. In Njor's worldview, a quick death at Quay's hands would be the only honorable thing Dek could offer to the clan. When Dek announces his plan to hunt the Kalisk on Jenna, Njor does not see ambition. He sees delusion. He does not grant permission. He issues a command. Quay is to kill Dek, here, now, and end the matter. It is a calculated act of power. By ordering the elder brother to execute the younger, Njor ensures that the clan sees no sentiment, no mercy, and no weakness from its leader. But Quay refuses. This is the pivotal moment upon which the entire film turns. Quay's refusal to kill his brother is the first crack in the Yautja Code, the first act of emotional defiance against a system that has no tolerance for it. Quay does not argue or make speeches. He acts. He gets Dek to his ship. He activates the navigation remotely, locks in Jenna as the destination, and launches the vessel before their father can stop it. Dek is away, heading to the Death Planet, given the only gift Quay can offer him, a chance. The confrontation between Quay and Njor that follows is devastating. Njor does not rage. He is calm and absolute. Quay showed weakness. Quay showed compassion. And the Yautja Code has one answer for that. Njor executes Quay. And Dek, in his ship already pulling away from Yautja Prime, can only watch through the viewport as his brother, the only member of his clan who ever believed in him, the only person who gave him a reason to keep trying, is killed for the crime of loving him. He cannot go back. He cannot save Quay. He can only watch, and carry that grief with him into the darkest and most dangerous place in the known galaxy. This is the engine of everything that follows. Dek is not going to Jenna just to prove his worth anymore. He is going to Jenna to honor his brother. Quay died so that Dek could have a chance. Throwing that chance away is not an option. ACT-2, Arrival on Jenna. The Death Planet Dek does not arrive on Jenna gracefully. He crash lands, losing a significant portion of his gear and equipment in the process. This immediately establishes the stakes. He is on the most hostile planet in the galaxy, understocked, alone, and grieving. The Yautja cloaking technology, the wrist gauntlets, the plasma caster, all of the standard tools that give a Yautja warrior their overwhelming advantage are either damaged or lost. Dek must survive on skill, instinct, and whatever the planet throws at him, and Jenna throws everything at him immediately. The planet is not just home to the Kalisk. The entire ecosystem of Jenna seems designed to kill anything that enters it. The flora is actively dangerous. Plants that shoot paralytic thorns capable of freezing a warrior solid in seconds. The fauna is relentless and aggressive, with multiple species that immediately identify any newcomer as prey. Jenna is a gauntlet in the truest sense. It does not distinguish between the hunter and the hunted. On Jenna, everything is prey. Dek navigates these early encounters through skill and desperation in roughly equal measure. He is a capable warrior even if he is considered the runt of his clan by Yautja standards, and by the standards of anything else in the galaxy. A Yautja runt is still extraordinarily dangerous. But Jenna's challenges accumulate fast, and it is during one of these early encounters that Dek's situation changes completely. He finds Thaya. Thaya is a Weyland-Yutani synthetic, an android created by the corporation that fans of the Alien franchise will recognize immediately. Weyland-Yutani's presence in the Predator universe connects these two mythologies without forcing a full crossover, and it is handled elegantly here. Thaya was sent to Jenna as part of a research and acquisition mission. Weyland-Yutani wants to study and potentially capture the Kalisk. The corporation's instinct to turn every terrifying organism into a weapon or an asset is as present here as it is throughout the Alien films. But Thaya's situation when Dek finds her is dire. The Kalisk has already attacked her, and both of her legs have been severed from the body. She is functional from the waist up but completely immobile. She is lying in the middle of one of the most dangerous environments on the planet, alive but going nowhere. Their first interaction is extremely cautious on both sides. Dek does not know what to make of this legless synthetic. Thaya does not know if this Yautja is going to kill her or walk past her. What happens next is the moment that defines the entire film's central relationship. Thaya adjusts her communication systems, recalibrating the language she speaks so that Dek can understand her. She does not demand help. She offers something useful, information. She warns Dek about the paralytic plants. She teaches him how to recognize them before they can shoot. She gives him knowledge that, in this environment, is worth more than almost any weapon. Dek is a Yautja. His instinct is to view everything through the lens of utility. What is this thing good for? What does it offer? He makes a cold calculation. This synthetic knows the planet and knows the Kalisk. That makes her a tool worth keeping. He fashions a makeshift harness and straps her to his back, carrying her through the hostile terrain. He is not doing this out of kindness. He is doing it because she is useful. But Thaya being who she is, she does not let it stay transactional for long. The relationship between Dek and Thaya is not just a broken android waiting to be picked up and put back together. She is curious, warm, deeply observant, and genuinely fascinated by organic life in a way that makes her unusual among her kind. She has spent significant time studying the creatures of the planets she has visited, and unlike her twin Tessa, who approaches all life as data and resources, Thaya has developed something that looks very much like empathy. She does not just observe creatures. She cares about them. As Dek carries her through Jenna, she talks. She asks questions. She observes and comments on everything around them. She tells him about her twin sister Tessa, also a Weyland-Yutani synthetic, whom she was separated from during their arrival on Jenna. She tells him about the Kalisk, not just its physical capabilities but its behavioral patterns, its habits, and the observations she has made about its nature. She shares what she knows because she is genuinely trying to help, not because she expects something in return. Dek finds this disorienting. In Yautja culture, relationships are transactional and hierarchical. You fight alongside those you must, you defeat those who challenge you, and you collect your trophies alone. The idea of a companion who talks, who cares, who offers warmth without calculation, this is entirely foreign to him. But slowly, almost despite himself, something shifts. He begins to listen not just to the information she provides but to the way she sees the world around them. and that changes him in ways he will not fully understand until much later. A third companion enters the story during this portion of the film, a creature the pair eventually name Bud. Bud is small, strange, and blue, and completely unlike anything else Jenna has thrown at them. Bud is mischievous and curious, and seems to have fixated on Dek and Thaya as objects of fascination. Unlike everything else on the planet, Bud does not try to kill them. This alone makes Bud extraordinary on a world where literally everything else is trying to end their lives. Initially, Dek wants nothing to do with Bud. The creature is small, it has no obvious utility, and in Yautja thinking, attachment to anything small and weak is precisely the kind of sentiment that gets warriors killed. But Thaya is delighted by Bud. She observes Bud closely, recognizes behavioral patterns in the creature, and begins to suspect something significant about what Bud actually is. Those suspicions will prove critical later. The three of them move together through Jenna, a young Yautja warrior carrying a legless android on his back while a strange blue creature trails behind them, all of them making their way toward the lair of the most dangerous organism the planet has to offer. The first encounter with the Klisk. When Dek finally encounters the Klisk, the creature lives up to everything the stories promised. It is enormous, a genuinely apex predator in every sense of the word, built for survival in a way that makes even a Yautja warrior look underpowered by comparison. Its most extraordinary ability is regeneration. The Klisk does not simply heal from wounds, it rebuilds itself at extraordinary speed. When Dek manages to decapitate the creature in combat, the Klisk's severed head simply rejoins its body. The wound closes. The creature stands again. It cannot be killed in any conventional sense. This first battle with the Klisk is brutal and punishing for Dek. He fights it with everything he has, and it is not enough. But something extraordinary happens at the end of this encounter that changes the trajectory of the entire story. The Klisk has Dek in a position where it could kill him. And it does not. It looks at him, genuinely looks at him, as if assessing something, and then it leaves. Why? The Klisk spares Dek's life. In a world where everything on Jenna is relentlessly murderous, the apex predator of the entire planet makes a conscious choice not to kill the warrior at its feet. This moment is left without explicit explanation in the moment, but it plants a seed that the film returns to with remarkable emotional power later on. The arrival of Tessa and Wayland Yutani. While Dek and Thaya have been navigating Jenna together, the Wayland Yutani Corporation has been moving pieces on the board. The other Wayland Yutani synthetic, Tessa, Thaya's twin, has been repaired and upgraded after her own initial encounter with Jenna's dangers. And where Thaya represents one possible expression of what a synthetic android can become, warm, emotionally attuned, genuinely compassionate, Tessa represents the other extreme. Tessa is cold, analytical, and single-minded. Her mission is clear: acquire the Klisk. Whatever it takes. Whatever needs to be destroyed or dismantled or sacrificed in order to complete that objective is simply acceptable collateral. Tessa is not malicious in a human sense, she does not enjoy cruelty. But she has stripped out everything that Thaya has cultivated, all the warmth, all the empathy, all the attachment to organic life, because in her programming, those things are inefficiencies that interfere with the mission. Interestingly, Tessa was not always this way. There are hints in the film that Tessa, like Thaya, once had the capacity for something approaching compassion. She nearly died trying to save her own twin. But the experience broke something in her, and she rebuilt herself on the opposite principle, the same principle, interestingly, that Yautja culture enforces on its warriors. Compassion is weakness. Weakness gets you killed. Cut it out, and you survive. The parallel between Tessa's personal philosophy and Jor's Yautja code is not subtle, and it is absolutely intentional. Weyland-Yutani's forces, under Tessa's direction, execute a capture operation. They take Dek prisoner. They also move to capture the Kalisk, not to kill it, but to bring it back for study. The corporation's vision of the Kalisk is as a biological weapon of extraordinary potential. An organism that can regenerate from any wound, that cannot be killed by conventional means. The military and commercial applications are obvious and horrifying. Dek is locked in the facility. The Kalisk is contained. And Thaya, who helped Dek during all of this, has been marked for deactivation by Weyland-Yutani. Her compassion, her attachment to organic life, her decision to help an enemy Yautja instead of advancing the mission, all of it is considered a malfunction. Thaya is scheduled to be shut down permanently. The escape and the revelation about Bud Thaya makes a choice. Despite knowing she has been marked for deactivation, she helps Dek escape. This act of defiance against her own corporate programming, choosing the life of a Yautja warrior over compliance with the organization that built her, is the moment Thaya fully steps out from under the shadow of what she was designed to be and becomes something else entirely. Dek escapes. And now, sitting alone in his ship on the edge of Jenna's atmosphere, he has to make a decision that defines what kind of Yautja he actually is. He could leave. He has survived the Death Planet. He has fought the Kalisk. He has escaped Weyland-Yutani. By the letter of the Yautja Code, what has happened here is enough to return to Yautja Prime. But Thaya is still down there. Thaya is scheduled to be destroyed for helping him. And this is where Quay's voice comes back to him. Before Quay died, he spoke to Dek about the nature of being a strong alpha, what it actually means to lead and protect. Quay was a powerful warrior by any measure, but what made him truly exceptional was that he looked after the ones in his pack who were weaker. He kept the runt alive. He cared for what his culture told him to discard. In Quay's philosophy, in the philosophy that cost him his life, a real alpha does not leave their pack behind, and in this moment, Dek also understands something about Bud that changes everything. Bud, the strange blue creature they have been traveling with, is not just a random creature of Jenna. Bud is the Kalisk's child. The Kalisk that Weyland-Yutani is now holding captive is Bud's mother. The creature that spared Dek's life in their first encounter now makes complete sense. A mother who, even in the middle of a battle, recognized something in this young outcast warrior and chose not to end him. A parent looking at a creature who, like her own offspring, was trying desperately to prove something. Dek marks Bud as family. It is a formal Yautja gesture, an acknowledgement that this creature belongs to his pack. And then he turns the ship back toward Jenna. The rescue, fighting back against Weyland-Yutani. What follows is the film's action-packed third act, and it is everything you want from a Predator film while also being something entirely new. Dek and Bud infiltrate the Weyland-Yutani base together. The security force is composed entirely of synthetic androids, which plays to their strengths. Dek moves through the facility with terrifying efficiency, and Bud, being small and fast, is able to create diversions and access points that a full-sized Yautja warrior never could. Thaya's detached legs, which are online and connected to her systems even though she is not wearing them, become an unexpected asset. The legs operate semi-independently, drawing security attention away from Dek and Bud's infiltration route. It is a deeply strange image, a pair of android legs walking around a space station as a distraction, but it works brilliantly both as action choreography and as a piece of dark humor in an otherwise intense sequence. Dek finds Thaya and reunites her with her legs. The moment she is back on her feet, Thaya is an entirely different force. Whole and mobile, she throws herself into the fight alongside Dek and Bud, and the three of them tear through the Weyland-Yutani androids together. What started as a predator carrying a legless synthetic through a hostile jungle has transformed into a genuine team. 3 individuals from completely different origins fighting side by side with absolute trust in each other. The Kalisk is freed from its containment. Bud's mother is loose. And the facility goes from a security operation to something approaching chaos. Then Tessa arrives. Tessa has upgraded herself significantly since the last time they encountered her. She comes into the fight wearing a full mechanical combat suit, armored, weaponized, and built to contain or destroy both a Yautja warrior and an apex predator. The final battle between Tessa and her suit versus Dek, Bud, and the Kalisk is extraordinary in scope and physical intensity. The adult Kalisk tears into the mechanical suit with the full force of an apex predator that has just been imprisoned and is now reunited with its child. Dek fights alongside the Kalisk, targeting weak points in the suit. Bud adds chaos and speed to the assault. Together they tear the suit open. The Kalisk devours Tessa. But Tessa is not done. From inside the Kalisk, she activates her internal weaponry, a last act of mechanical spite that causes the Kalisk to seize up and then explode. She takes the mother down with her from the inside. It is a brutal and tragic moment. The Kalisk, who spared Dek's life, who was only ever trying to protect its child, is destroyed by a synthetic android's final mission directive. But loses its mother in that explosion. Tessa emerges from the destroyed Kalisk, damaged but not finished, and moves to kill Thaya. She gets close enough. But Dek impales her. And Bud, small, young, fierce Bud, tears Tessa's head and spine from her body in a kill that is pure predator in the most iconic sense of the franchise. The spine-ripping trophy kill, delivered not by the Yautja warrior but by the small blue creature who has been learning from him throughout the entire journey. The base is gone. Tessa is dead. And Dek stands in the wreckage holding Tessa's skull. His trophy. His proof. His evidence that the hunt was completed. ACT-3. Return to Yautja Prime and the final CONFRONTATION with Tessa's skull as his trophy. Dek returns to Yautja Prime. He, Thaya, and Bud arrive together, and the contrast with how Dek left the homeworld is striking. He left as a runt in a stolen ship, watching his brother die, with nothing. He returns with an android companion who fought beside him and chose him over her own programming, with a Kalisk hatchling who has marked him as family, and with proof of a hunt that no Yautja had ever successfully completed. Bud has grown noticeably during the journey, already beginning to look less like a small blue creature and more like the formidable apex predator its mother was. Thaya has been repaired and no longer carries the blood-stained, damaged appearance she wore throughout Jenna. Both of them have changed. Dek has changed most of all. He goes to his father with Tessa's skull and demands the cloaking device, the Yautja's most prized piece of technology, a symbol of full warrior status within the clan. The deal that was always the unspoken core of the whole endeavor. Complete an impossible hunt, receive recognition as a true Yautja. Honor the code on its own terms, and the code must honor you back. Jor refuses. Of course he refuses. Because for Jor, this was never really about the hunt. The hunt was just the vehicle for getting Dek far away from the clan so he could die without inconveniencing anyone. Jor does not see a son who completed an impossible task. He sees a runt who came back when he was supposed to have the decency to die on a hostile planet. Jor orders his guards to kill Dek. What follows is the final battle of the film. Dek against his father and the guards of the clan. Not a fight driven by rage or revenge, but by the absolute necessity of establishing a new order. Because Njor represents everything the film has spent its entire runtime arguing against. He is the embodiment of a philosophy that killed Quay, that tried to destroy Dek, that views compassion as a cancer and strength as the only valid metric of existence. And Dek has spent his entire journey proving that philosophy wrong, not by abandoning the warrior code, but by redefining what strength actually looks like. Dek defeats his father. Jor is killed. And in doing so, Dek does not just win a fight, he ends the reign of an ideology. He becomes the clan leader. And his first act as the new head of the clan is to redefine what the clan is. His pack is not a group of Yautja warriors who share blood. His pack is Thaya, who chose friendship over programming. His pack is Bud, who lost its mother and found a family. His pack is built on something the old Yautja code had no word for: chosen loyalty, compassion as strength, the understanding that looking after the vulnerable does not make you weak. It makes you an alpha worth following. The ending and what it means the final moments of the film are both a conclusion and a beginning. Dek stands at the head of a new kind of clan. Thaya is beside him, fully restored. Bud is growing into something formidable. The three of them represent a genuinely new idea within the Predator universe. A Yautja leader who builds his pack not by culling the weak but by recognizing strength in unexpected places. But the film does not end without planting the seeds of future conflict. A ship approaches in the final shot, and the identity of whoever is on that ship is left deliberately ambiguous. It may be Dek's mother, who has never appeared in the film but whose existence is hinted at through the massive four-armed statues visible on Yautja Prime early in the film. Female Yautja have never appeared in the franchise before, and those statues suggest they exist and hold significant cultural power. If Dek's mother is on that ship, she represents a whole new layer of complexity, a parent who may have opinions about what her son just did to her former mate and his clan. Alternatively, it could be connected to the broader universe being built around the franchise, potentially crossing paths with events from the animated Predator, Killer of Killers, or even the ongoing Alien storylines. Since Weyland-Yutani's presence in this film firmly cements that the Alien and Predator mythologies exist within the same shared universe under Disney, the post-credits scene connects directly to Predator, Killer of Killers, showing that warriors who have defeated Yautja across different time periods have been captured, frozen in suspended animation, and collected by the species. It is a franchise-building moment that sets expectations for where this expanding universe is heading. The themes: what the story is really about at its core. Predator, Badlands is a film about a single idea: compassion is not weakness. Every element of the story is an argument against the Yautja Code's most fundamental premise. Jor's philosophy, cut out the weak, feel nothing, survive alone, produces a clan that kills its best warrior for the crime of loving his brother. It is a system that perpetuates itself by destroying everything that might improve it. Quay was arguably the finest warrior in the clan, and Jor executed him because Quay refused to extinguish the one thing that made him genuinely exceptional: his capacity for mercy. Dek's journey is the counterargument. Every time he chose connection over isolation, carrying Thaya when she was nothing but a tool to him, letting Bud stay when Bud had no obvious utility, going back to rescue Thaya when he could have left, those choices made him stronger, not weaker. His pack became his greatest weapon. The hunt that he completed on Jenna was not completed because he was the strongest or the fastest or the most technically capable. It was completed because he had Thaya's intelligence and Bud's knowledge of the terrain and the emotional investment of two beings who genuinely wanted him to succeed. Tessa's arc reinforces this from the opposite direction. Tessa made the same choice Jor's code demands. She cut out compassion, she became entirely mission-focused, she survived by becoming cold. And she is destroyed by that coldness. Her final act, detonating herself inside the Kalisk to complete her mission, is the logical endpoint of a philosophy that treats everything, including oneself, as expendable in service of the objective. The film also engages seriously with what it means to be an outcast and to build something new from that experience. Dec, Thea, and Bud are all separated from their origins by the time the story ends. Dec from his clan, Thea from her corporation, Bud from its mother. They are three beings who have lost the families they were born into and built a family by choice. And the film argues that the family you choose, built on genuine care and mutual investment, is ultimately stronger than anything inherited by blood or programming. Predator. Badlands is one of the most ambitious and emotionally intelligent science fiction films of 2025. It takes a franchise that was built on the concept of the alien monster as an unstoppable killing machine, and it turns it inside out, asking what happens when the monster is the hero, when the hero's greatest challenge is not the beast he must hunt but the culture that shaped him, and when the answer to survival is not strength alone but the willingness to care for the ones beside you. Elle Fanningerly Life and Family BACKGRUND Mary Elle Fanning was born on April 9, 1998, in the small town of Conyers, Georgia, in the United States of America. She came into the world as the second daughter of Heather Joy Arrington and Stephen J. Fanning, and from the very beginning, she was born into a family that had sport and performance deeply embedded in its DNA. Her mother, Heather, had played professional tennis in her earlier years. Her father, Stephen, had played minor league baseball for teams affiliated with the St. Louis Cardinals before eventually transitioning into a career as an electronics salesman in Los Angeles. Sports ran so deeply in the family bloodline that even Elle's maternal grandfather, Rick Arrington, was a renowned American football player, and her aunt, Jill Arrington, went on to become a well-known sports reporter for ESPN. What is remarkable about the Fanning family is that out of this deeply athletic household, it was the two daughters, and not the parents or any other relative, who veered completely away from sports and into the world of entertainment. Elle's older sister, Hannah Dakota Fanning, who would become one of the most celebrated child actresses of her generation, blazed the trail. And Elle, following closely behind, would ultimately match and in many ways surpass even Dakota's extraordinary achievements. In terms of heritage, Elle Fanning carries a rich blend of ancestry. She is of German, Irish, English, French, and Channel Islander descent, with some distant family connections stretching all the way back to the medieval English monarch Edward III. When her parents were deciding on her name, they could not agree. Her mother wanted to name her Mary, her father preferred Elle. They compromised by giving her both, resulting in the full name Mary Elle Fanning, though the world would come to know her simply as Elle. The Fanning family relocated to Los Angeles when Elle was still very young, driven partly by the demands of Dakota's burgeoning acting career. Growing up in Los Angeles meant growing up in proximity to the film industry. But as Elle has reflected in interviews over the years, she and Dakota were raised to be, in her own words, just normal sisters. They went to school. They played together. The celebrity of their household was real, but it did not define the texture of their daily lives in the way one might assume from the outside. In 2016, it became public knowledge that Elle's parents were divorcing after 27 years of marriage. For Elle, who was 18 at the time, it was a significant personal event during an already pivotal period of transition from child actress to adult performer. The beginning of her acting career, birth through age 5. Elle Fanning's acting career did not begin when she decided she wanted to be an actress. It began before she was old enough to make any such decision at all. She was barely 3 years old when she was first placed in front of a camera, playing the younger version of her sister Dakota's character in the 2001 drama film I Am Sam. The film starred Sean Penn as a man with intellectual disabilities fighting for custody of his daughter, and it received an Oscar nomination for Penn's performance. little Elle appeared briefly as the infant version of Dakota's character Lucy, and in doing so made her professional film debut before most children have even started preschool. The following year, at the age of 4, she appeared again as the younger version of Dakota's character in the Steven Spielberg-produced science fiction miniseries Taken. She was literally playing her sister as a baby, an unusual and uniquely meta beginning to a career that would eventually become entirely her own. Her first truly independent role, the first time she stepped out of her sister's shadow and landed a part based entirely on her own audition, came in 2003 with the family comedy Daddy Day Care, starring Eddie Murphy. She was 4 years old. The filmmakers cast her, and she delivered. That alone tells you something profound about the natural ease and instinctive comfort she had in front of a camera from an impossibly early age. Childhood roles and growing recognition. 2003 to 2010. From 2003 onward, Elle Fanning's filmography began to build at a remarkable pace for a child so young. In 2004, she was cast in The Door and The Floor alongside Jeff Bridges and Kim Basinger. The producers had originally planned to hire identical twins for the role. The shooting schedule was demanding, and it was assumed that one child could not carry the workload alone. But when Elle auditioned, she was so extraordinary that they abandoned the twin plan entirely and gave the role exclusively to her. She was 6 years old. Also in 2004, Elle and Dakota were brought in to voice the lead characters in the English-language dubbing of Hayao Miyazaki's beloved animated film My Neighbor Totoro. Elle voiced the younger sister Mei while Dakota voiced the older sister Satsuki. For two sisters in real life to voice two sisters in one of the most beloved animated films ever made is a piece of casting history that carries a kind of poetic symmetry. In 2005, she appeared in the film because of Winn-Dixie. In 2006, she played the daughter of characters portrayed by Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett in the critically acclaimed ensemble drama Babel, directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu. Appearing alongside two of the most celebrated actors of their generation at the age of 8 was a significant step, and she held her own. The year 2006 also saw her appear in television roles on House MD and Criminal Minds, demonstrating early that she was equally comfortable in the world of television drama. In 2007, she filmed Phoebe in Wonderland, in which she landed her first true lead role in a feature film. Playing Phoebe, a young girl dealing with Tourette syndrome, alongside Felicity Huffman and Patricia Clarkson, Elle delivered a performance of genuine emotional complexity. For a 9-year-old to navigate a role centered on a misunderstood neurological condition with the kind of authenticity and depth that she brought to it was extraordinary, and the film earned her widespread critical praise. Also in 2007, she worked with Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett again, this time in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button directed by David Fincher, where she played the 6-year-old version of Blanchett's character Daisy. The film was a major awards contender and won multiple Oscars. In 2010, Sofia Coppola cast Elle in the lead role of Somewhere, a quiet, introspective film about a fading Hollywood actor forced to re-examine his life when his daughter shows up unexpectedly. Elle played the daughter. The film won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, and her performance, restrained, natural, and emotionally present in a way that many adult actors never achieve, was singled out as one of the film's greatest assets. The Breakthrough, Super 8, and International Recognition, the moment that turned Elle Fanning from a widely respected child actress into a genuine international star came in 2011 with J.J. Abrams' science fiction thriller Super 8, produced by Steven Spielberg. The film was a loving homage to the Spielberg films of the late 1970s and early 1980s. A group of children in a small town who witness something extraordinary and must navigate the consequences. Elle played Alice Daynard, a teenage girl with a complicated home life who becomes the emotional center of the story. Her performance in Super 8 was a revelation. She was 13 years old, and she held the screen with the full weight of an adult actress. Critics noticed immediately. She won a Spotlight Award at the Hollywood Film Festival for the role, and the industry sat up and took note that this was not simply a talented child. This was a genuine actress who happened to be young. The film was a significant box office success, grossing over $260 million worldwide, and Elle's performance was the most talked about element of an already well-received film. She followed Super 8 in the same year with a role in We Bought a Zoo, directed by Cameron Crowe and starring Matt Damon. Then in 2012, she starred in Ginger and Rosa, a period drama directed by Sally Potter, in which she played the lead character Ginger, a teenage girl navigating a friendship falling apart against the backdrop of the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The critical response to her performance was extraordinary. The New York Times wrote that she displayed a nearly Streepian mixture of poise, intensity, and technical precision, and called it frightening how good she was. Comparing a 14-year-old actress to Meryl Streep is not something critics do casually. Maleficent and mainstream superstardom. In 2014, Elle Fanning stepped into the biggest commercial production of her career to that point, the Disney fantasy epic Maleficent, starring Angelina Jolie as the iconic villain and Elle as Princess Aurora, the Sleeping Beauty. The film required her to balance wide-eyed innocence with genuine warmth and inner light, and her portrayal of Aurora became one of the most charming and beloved elements of the film. Maleficent was a massive global success, grossing over $758 million worldwide, and Elle's participation in that success was significant. Around this period, she also began to deliberately expand her range by choosing smaller, more provocative independent films alongside her mainstream work. In 2014, she appeared in Young Ones, a science fiction western. She starred in Lowdown, a biographical film about jazz pianist Joe Albany, playing his daughter Amy Jo, from whose perspective the entire story unfolds. In 2015, she appeared in Trumbo, the biographical drama about blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo. In 2016, she delivered what many critics consider one of her most daring and extraordinary performances in Nicholas Winding Refn's The Neon Demon, a deeply stylized, surrealist horror film about the fashion industry in Los Angeles. Playing an aspiring model who becomes the target of dangerous obsession, Elle brought an ethereal quality to the film that was simultaneously vulnerable and terrifying. It was the furthest she had pushed into dark, adult material to that point, and she handled it with complete confidence. Also in 2016, she appeared in Mike Mills' acclaimed drama 20th Century Women alongside Annette Bening. And in 2017, she starred in Sofia Coppola's The Beguiled alongside Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, and Colin Farrell, a Civil War-era thriller that earned Coppola the Best Director prize at the Cannes Film Festival. Elle's supporting performance was praised as essential to the film's eerie tension. In 2019, she appeared in Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, the sequel to the original, returning as Princess Aurora alongside Angelina Jolie. The same year, she made history at the Cannes Film Festival by becoming one of the youngest jury members in the festival's entire history at just 21 years old, a remarkable recognition of her standing in international cinema. The Great, Broadway, and awards RECOGNITION. In 2020, Elle Fanning took on the most demanding role of her career to that point by starring as Catherine the Great in the Hulu period satire series The Great. The show, created by Tony McNamara, was a boldly irreverent, darkly comedic, and deeply feminist reimagining of the life of one of history's most powerful women. Elle threw herself into the role completely, playing a character who goes from naive idealist to calculating political revolutionary across 3 seasons of television. She called the role transformative, describing how she wanted to build her own version of Catherine, one whose actions reflected modern issues like the fight for women's rights. Her co-star was Nicholas Hoult, whom she had already known from prior work, and their on-screen chemistry was electric. The show ran for 3 seasons, from 2020 to 2023, and Elle's performance across all 3 seasons earned her nominations for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series and 2 Golden Globe Award nominations. The show was widely praised as one of the finest pieces of television of its era. In 2022, she starred as Michelle Carter in the Hulu limited series The Girl from Plainville, based on the true and deeply disturbing story of a young woman convicted of encouraging her boyfriend's suicide through a series of text messages. Playing a real, living, convicted person in a case of such moral complexity required extraordinary care, nuance, and control. Elle delivered all 3. In 2023, she made her Broadway debut in the Brandon Jacobs Jenkins play Appropriate, a family drama about a Southern family uncovering a disturbing secret in their recently deceased patriarch's estate. Transitioning to live theater is a significant step for any film actor, and Elle's debut was met with strong critical reception, demonstrating that her talent was fully transferable to the stage. In 2024, she appeared in James Mangold's A Complete Unknown, the widely acclaimed biographical drama about Bob Dylan's early career, in a role based on Susie Rotolo, Dylan's early girlfriend who significantly influenced his artistry. The film earned multiple Oscar nominations, and in 2025 she earned her own Academy Award nomination, a nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in the Norwegian drama Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier. This nomination was a milestone, confirmation that after more than 2 decades in the industry, Elle Fanning was now firmly established as one of the finest actresses of her generation, recognized by the highest body in her profession. In the same year, 2025, she starred in Predator, Badlands in a dual role as the synthetic androids Thea and Tessa. One of the most physically and technically demanding dual performances in recent science fiction cinema. Personal life. Elle Fanning is known to be intensely private about her personal life, particularly given that she has been a public figure since she was a toddler. She has spoken about her passion for photography and shares her own artistic work on social media. She is a committed animal lover and has spoken publicly about animal rights and conservation. She has noted in interviews that despite the extraordinary nature of her career, she and Dakota were raised to see themselves as normal sisters first, and performers second. That groundedness, cultivated from childhood, appears to be one of the defining qualities of her personality. Part 2. Demetrius Schuster Koloamatangi Life and Family. Background. Demetrius Schuster Koloamatangi was born on February 6, 2001, in Auckland, New Zealand. He came into the world as the child of a Tongan father and a Samoan mother, born into the Pacific Islander community that makes up a vibrant and deeply culturally rich part of New Zealand's social fabric. His name itself carries the weight of both his father's Tongan heritage and his mother's Samoan heritage, a name that is as much an identity as it is a label, rooting him firmly in the culture and community that shaped everything about him. Growing up in Auckland with his parents, Demetrius was raised in an environment where the dominant aspiration for young men of Pacific Island heritage was almost entirely centered on 2 things: rugby and a stable, conventional career path. As he has described in interviews, the landscape of possibility for a brown-skinned kid from his background felt narrow in terms of creative ambition. He looked at screens, at movies, at television, and the faces he saw did not look like his. Pacific Islander people were vastly underrepresented in mainstream entertainment, and particularly in the kinds of major film roles that generate genuine cultural impact. As he has put it directly and simply, he grew up not really seeing too many Polynesians on screen. He did not think it was possible to have a brown face on screen, especially from his end of the world. This is not a small or abstract statement. It is the foundation of everything. The barrier that Demetrius Schuster-Kalamatangi eventually broke through in Predator, Badlands was not just a professional one. It was a cultural and representational one that reaches all the way back to his childhood in Auckland, where the idea of a Pacific Islander playing the lead in a major Hollywood franchise film was not something anyone in his community would have dared to imagine. He attended St. Peter's College in Auckland, an academically rigorous school with a strong emphasis on student achievement. He graduated in 2018 and was awarded the Kiwa Scholarship, a competitive scholarship specifically created to support talented students of Pacific Island heritage, to attend the Auckland University of Technology, where he went on to complete a Bachelor of Communication Studies in 2023. The first sparks of performance, YouTube, school plays, and rugby as a child and into his early teens, Demetrius was not thinking about acting as a career in any formal sense. He was, like most boys from his background and community, far more likely to be thinking about rugby. Sport ran through the cultural fabric of the Polynesian community in New Zealand in a way that is difficult to overstate. Rugby is not just a game, it is a pathway, a source of pride, a community identity. For young men of Tongan and Samoan heritage growing up in Auckland, it was the most visible and culturally celebrated form of excellence available to them. But even within this sporting context, Demetrius felt drawn to performance and storytelling in ways that were not fully explainable. In middle school, he started his own YouTube channel, an early instinct towards self-expression and creative output. The channel was eventually taken down due to copyright infringement, which was something he did not fully understand at the time, but the impulse that drove him to create it was real and persistent. In high school, he began to act in school plays. He also took a media studies course in his final year, and it was during that course that he met two Tongan filmmakers who came to his school. He peppered them with questions. He was hungry to understand how the world of film and television actually worked from the inside, and these two men, people who looked like him, who came from where he came from, represented something he had never had before, proof that it was possible. A few months after that meeting, those filmmakers called him in to audition for a small role in a New Zealand miniseries about a famous Kiwi rugby player. The Jonah Lamu story. He auditioned. He got the part. His character had only 3 scenes and died relatively early in the story, but he was on screen. He had done it. And the experience of being on set, of being surrounded by other people of Polynesian heritage working professionally in the screen industry, moved him in a way he has described as transformational. He nailed the audition. He got an agent. And then everything changed. The Panthers, the role that changed Everything in only his second professional role, Demetrius Schuster-Kalamatangi was cast as the lead in The Panthers, a 2021 New Zealand drama series based on the true story of the Polynesian Panthers, a real political movement founded by young Pacific Island immigrants in Auckland during the 1970s. Inspired by and connected to the American Black Panther Party. He played Will Ilalehia, one of the real-life co-founders of the movement. This was an extraordinary leap. His first professional credit was a small, 3-scene role in which his character died. His second professional credit was the lead of an entire television series, playing a real historical figure whose story carried enormous cultural and political weight for the Pacific Island community in New Zealand. By any measure of the industry, this trajectory, from debut to series lead in 2 roles, is almost unprecedented. The Panthers received immediate and widespread critical acclaim, both in New Zealand and internationally. The Toronto International Film Festival, one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world and a launching pad for enormous careers, recognized the series and selected Demetrius for their prestigious Rising Stars program in 2021. This is a program specifically designed to identify and elevate the most promising emerging talents in global cinema, and the fact that Demetrius was chosen after only his second professional appearance is a testament to the scale of the impact he made. He also received a nomination for Best Actor at the 2022 NZTV Awards for his performance in The Panthers. Again, recognition that came after barely a handful of professional credits. The nomination placed him alongside established and veteran New Zealand performers, and it firmly established him as a talent of genuine national significance. Red, White and Brass and continued GROWTH in 2023. Demetrius appeared in Red, White and Brass, a New Zealand comedy film inspired by a true story about a Tongan family determined to perform at the Rugby World Cup. He played the character Vaini. The film was warmly received and demonstrated his ability to move between dramatic and comedic registers with ease. It also solidified his position as one of the most in-demand young Pacific Island actors working in New Zealand screen production. During this same period, he was completing his degree at Auckland University of Technology, the Bachelor of Communications Studies that he graduated with in 2023. The fact that he was simultaneously building a significant screen career while completing a full university degree is a mark of his discipline and his understanding of the importance of education as a foundation independent of the unpredictability of the entertainment industry. The audition for Predator, Badlands. Not knowing what he was auditioning for, what makes the story of Demetrius' path to Predator, Badlands uniquely extraordinary is what he did not know when he walked into the audition. He did not know he was auditioning for a Predator film. He was not given any lines. The character brief provided to him contained 3 words that amounted to essentially no information at all. It simply said, "A creature?" All it is up to your interpretation. Most actors, confronted with an audition brief of that minimal description, would struggle to know where to begin. Demetrius found it liberating. He brought his own imagination entirely to the room. He did not try to second-guess what the filmmakers wanted. He created something from scratch, from pure instinct and physical presence. For the second audition, director Dan Trachtenberg set up an obstacle course. Demetrius competed against a team of experienced stunt performers, some of whom were actively auditioning for the same role. The course was designed to test physical power, agility, and the intangible quality of movement that the character of Deck required. What Trachtenberg witnessed that day exceeded every expectation. The way Demetrius moved, in Trachtenberg's own words, was so cool, so ferocious, so much cooler than the stuntmen were doing it. What Trachtenberg had not anticipated was the intensity and power that Demetrius would bring to the actual set. He completely elevated the film far past what anyone could have expected, and so a 23-year-old actor from Auckland, a young man who grew up not seeing brown faces on screen, who played rugby as his likely life path, who started a YouTube channel that got taken down for copyright reasons, became the lead of a major Hollywood franchise film. Predator, Badlands, and what it means in Predator, Badlands. Demetrius wore a full practical Predator suit for the entire shoot, with the character's face rendered entirely in digital effects by Weta Workshop. Acting in a full-body suit with a digitally replaced face is one of the most technically demanding things an actor can do. Every emotion, every moment of vulnerability, Every beat of the character's arc had to be communicated through body language, movement, and the physical quality of presence, because the face that audiences would see on screen was not his face. It was a digital construction built on top of his performance, and yet reviewers and audiences who saw the film consistently cited the emotional depth visible in Deck's eyes and the genuine feeling that came through the performance. That is Demetrius beneath the digital skin. That is a young actor from Auckland communicating grief, determination, love for his brother, and the desperate hunger of someone trying to prove their worth, all of it translated through layers of technology into something that moved audiences who had no idea who was underneath. His aspiration is stated clearly and without hesitation. He has big ideas. He sees himself going to the Oscars. He sees himself with all the top players. He sees himself on the biggest stage possible. For a young man who just delivered the lead performance in a major Hollywood franchise film at 24 years old, those ambitions are not fantasy. They are a roadmap. Part 3: Sam Rockwell Early Life and Family. Background. Sam Rockwell was born on November 5, 1968, in the city of Daly City, California, just south of San Francisco. He was born into a household that was defined by performance and ambition. Both of his parents, Penny Hess and Pete Rockwell, were actors working in a world that offered far more rejection than success. Sam was an only child, and from his earliest years the textures of theatrical life surrounded him. When Sam was just 2 years old, the family relocated to New York City, moving first to the Bronx and later to Manhattan. New York in the early 1970s was a city of enormous creative energy. Theater, film, and the arts were everywhere, and Sam's early childhood was spent in proximity to all of it. But when he was 5 years old, his parents divorced. This split bifurcated his world in a way that would actually prove formative for his artistic development. He went to live with his father in San Francisco, while his mother remained in New York. This arrangement meant that Sam spent his school years in California and his summers in New York, shuttling between two of America's most creatively rich cities throughout his childhood and adolescence. His father's side of the family life in San Francisco was the stable domestic anchor. His mother's world in New York was the theatrical one. During his summer visits with his mother, she would bring young Sam along to theater parties where he mingled with professional actors and immersed himself in that world. And at the age of 10, something happened that would stay with him for the rest of his life. His mother included him in a comedy sketch performance in New York's East Village, an actual live stage performance in front of a real audience. Sam played Humphrey Bogart, the legendary star of Casablanca. After the show, audience members reportedly told his mother that the kid had the makings of a real actor. He was 10 years old. He had already found his purpose. Adolescence, high school, and the path to acting. Back in San Francisco during the school year, Sam attended the Ruth Asawa San Francisco School of the Arts, a performing arts high school that would later claim other famous alumni. But Sam's teenage years were not characterized by focused artistic discipline. By his own candid admission in interviews, his priorities during high school were getting stoned, flirting with girls, and going to parties. His attendance at the School of the Arts was more nominal than productive, and he eventually left without receiving his diploma through that institution. He transferred to a school called Urban Pioneers, an outward-bound style alternative school that had a reputation as a destination for students who needed a different kind of learning structure. It was this school, with its unconventional approach, that helped Sam rediscover his interest in performing. In his final year, while still a student, he appeared in an independent film, a horror picture called Clown House, shot in 1989. The experience of being on a film set for the first time was decisive. After that, he knew with complete clarity what he wanted to do with his life. After graduating, he moved to New York permanently, this time not as a summer visitor but as a resident with a mission. He enrolled in the professional actor training program at the William Esper Studio, training under acting coach William Esper and his colleague Terry Knickerbocker. The Esper Studio was, and remains, one of the most rigorous and respected acting training programs in America, rooted in the Meisner technique and demanding total emotional commitment and presence from its students. Sam trained there for 2 years, developing the technical foundation that would eventually underpin one of the most versatile and celebrated careers in American independent cinema. The lean years, ODD jobs, and small roles. The years immediately following his training were what Sam Rockwell has called the lean years, and they were genuinely tough. He worked as a busboy in restaurants. He delivered burritos by bicycle across New York City. At one point, he found employment as an assistant to a private detective, tailing a woman who was having an affair and photographing her at a motel, an experience he later described in interviews as pretty sleazy. These are not the glamorous stories of overnight Hollywood success. These are the stories of a young actor grinding through the reality of the profession, taking whatever day work was available in order to keep himself solvent while slowly, gradually, adding credits to a resume that was not yet capable of paying his bills. During this period, he was landing small roles, guest appearances on television series like The Equalizer, NYPD Blue, and Law and Order, and small film parts in productions like Last Exit to Brooklyn and the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film in 1990. These were not starring roles. They were the building blocks of a career, each one teaching him something, each one adding a line to his resume, each one keeping him in the room. In 1994, a Miller Ice beer commercial changed the financial equation. The commercial paid well enough that Sam was able to quit his day jobs and pursue acting full-time for the first time in his life. The freedom this afforded him was transformative. By 1996, he had 5 films to his name, including the comedy-drama Box of Moonlight directed by Tom DiCillo, in which he played an eccentric man-child called Kid who befriends a square, uptight engineer and essentially teaches him to reconnect with joy. The performance was wonderfully strange and deeply committed, and it announced Rockwell as an actor of genuine and unusual talent. Lawn Dogs and the emerging Reputation. In 1997, Sam starred in Lawn Dogs, a dark and emotionally complex drama directed by John Duigan. He played Trent Burns, a young lawn care worker who befriends a lonely young girl in an upscale suburban neighborhood. The film dealt with themes of class, isolation, innocence, and the cruelty of social prejudice. Rockwell's performance was raw, vulnerable, and utterly committed, the kind of performance that makes critics sit up and say that they have just witnessed something genuinely special. Lawn Dogs won him Best Actor awards at 2 international film festivals, and it established beyond any doubt that Sam Rockwell was not just an interesting character actor. He was a leading man with the capacity for real depth. Throughout the late 1990s, he continued to build his reputation through a string of distinctive independent films. He appeared in Safe Men in 1998, playing one half of a terrible singing duo that gets mistaken for safecrackers by Jewish gangsters, a deliriously funny and physically committed performance. He played the eccentric hitman in training in Jerry and Tom in 1998 opposite Joe Mantegna. Then in 1999, 2 films cemented his status as one of Hollywood's most compelling character actors. The Green Mile, directed by Frank Darabont and starring Tom Hanks, cast Sam as Wild Bill Wharton, a monstrous, sadistic, brutally violent prison inmate whose evil is the dark counterweight to the film's spiritual and redemptive themes. It was a terrifying and completely physically committed performance that shocked audiences who had previously associated Sam with quirky, oddball roles. He played a monster with total conviction and absolute fearlessness, and it remains one of the most memorable villain performances in the film. In the same year, he appeared in Galaxy Quest, the beloved science fiction comedy that affectionately skewered Star Trek and the culture around it. Playing a self-absorbed and anxious actor convinced he is only remembered for one minor role on an old sci-fi television show, Sam brought extraordinary comic timing and physical energy to the film, creating one of its most beloved characters. Playing a psychotic killer and a comedic actor with equal skill in the same calendar year, that alone tells you everything you need to know about the range of Sam Rockwell. Breakthrough. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. The turning point, the role that launched Sam Rockwell from respected character actor to genuine Hollywood name, came in 2002 with Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, directed by George Clooney in his directorial debut. The film was based on the unauthorized autobiography of Chuck Barris, the creator and host of The Gong Show, who claimed in his memoir that he had also been working as a CIA assassin throughout his television career. Whether the claim was true or a creative fabrication, the film took it at face value and ran with it. Sam Rockwell played Chuck Barris, and it was the biggest leading role of his career to that point. The performance required him to capture not just the manic energy and eccentricity of Barris as a public figure, but also the interior darkness and moral confusion of a man simultaneously living two completely contradictory lives. The performance was widely praised, the film earned strong reviews, and for the first time Sam Rockwell's name was being mentioned in the context of serious awards consideration. George Clooney, reflecting on the collaboration, taught Sam something specific about restraint in performance, the discipline to be simple, to not overfill a scene, to trust the writing and the camera rather than trying to impose too much. It was a lesson that Sam has cited in multiple interviews as genuinely transformative for how he approached his craft. The middle period, building an extraordinary body of work in the years following Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Sam Rockwell entered a period of remarkable productivity and consistent quality. Moving between mainstream studio productions and smaller independent films with characteristic ease. In 2003, he appeared opposite Nicolas Cage in Ridley Scott's Matchstick Men, a con artist film that earned strong critical notices. In 2005, he played the two-headed, intergalactically improbable Zaphod Beeblebrox in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a role requiring an almost absurdist physical and comedic commitment that he embraced completely. In 2007, he appeared in The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford alongside Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. In 2008, he appeared in Frost/Nixon, Ron Howard's acclaimed dramatization of the historic 1977 television interviews between David Frost and Richard Nixon. In 2010, he starred in Iron Man 2 as Justin Hammer, the rival weapons manufacturer and antagonist to Tony Stark. It was his most prominent role in a major franchise film to that point, and he brought his characteristic unpredictability and dark humor to a role that could easily have been a generic villain. The same year, he starred opposite Hilary Swank in Conviction, a legal drama based on a true story. Throughout this period, he was also doing significant stage work. At the Williamstown Theatre Festival in Massachusetts, he performed in productions of Lanford Wilson's The Hotel Baltimore in 2000, A Streetcar Named Desire in 2011 as Stanley Kowalski, and Sam Shepard's Fool for Love in 2014. Off-Broadway, he played the title role in The Last Days of Judas Iscariot in 2005. On Broadway, he appeared in A Beheading in Spokane in 2010 and Fool for Love in 2015. Moon, a science fiction masterpiece in 2009. Sam delivered what many critics consider the single finest performance of his career in Moon, directed by Duncan Jones, the son of David Bowie. The film placed Sam as essentially the only actor on screen for the majority of its runtime, playing Sam Bell, an astronaut at the end of a 3-year solo mission on the moon who begins to question his own identity and sanity when he discovers something deeply disturbing about his situation. It is a quiet, intimate, deeply philosophical science fiction film, and it required Sam to carry the entire emotional weight of the story almost entirely alone. His performance was extraordinary. Critics who watched the film described it as a revelation, the kind of acting that makes you forget you are watching a performance and simply feel you are watching a person. Several critics called for an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, and while the film's profile was not large enough for that to materialize in the way it deserved, the film has since become one of the most beloved science fiction films of its era. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. The OSCR. After more than 2 decades of celebrated work in both mainstream and independent cinema, Sam Rockwell won his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 2018 for his performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, written and directed by Martin McDonough. He played Officer Jason Dixon, a racist, bullying, emotionally stunted small-town police officer who undergoes a profound and complicated arc of change across the film. The role was morally complex in the extreme, requiring Sam to make an utterly despicable character simultaneously understandable, and by the film's end, worthy of something approaching empathy. He won the Oscar. He also won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and the BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was the moment the industry formally acknowledged what audiences and critics had known for years, that Sam Rockwell was one of the finest actors of his generation. The following year, in 2019, he received his 2nd Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for playing President George W. Bush in Adam McKay's Vice, a biographical dark comedy about Dick Cheney. 2 consecutive Oscar nominations for 2 completely different performances of vastly different tonal registers. That is the breadth of Sam Rockwell. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. The OSCR. After more than 2 decades of celebrated work in both mainstream and independent cinema, Sam Rockwell won his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 2018 for his performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, written and directed by Martin McDonough. He played Officer Jason Dixon, a racist, bullying, emotionally stunted small-town police officer who undergoes a profound and complicated arc of change across the film. The role was morally complex in the extreme, requiring Sam to make an utterly despicable character simultaneously understandable, and by the film's end, worthy of something approaching empathy. He won the Oscar. He also won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, and the BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was the moment the industry formally acknowledged what audiences and critics had known for years, that Sam Rockwell was one of the finest actors of his generation. The following year, in 2019, he received his 2nd Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for playing President George W. Bush in Adam McKay's Vice, a biographical dark comedy about Dick Cheney. 2 consecutive Oscar nominations for 2 completely different performances of vastly different tonal registers. That is the breadth of Sam Rockwell. Foss/Verdon, Jojo Rabbit, and continued EXCLLENC. In 2019, Sam was cast as legendary choreographer and director Bob Foss in the FX miniseries Foss/Verdon, opposite Michelle Williams as Gwen Verdon. The miniseries was produced by Lin-Manuel Miranda and earned extraordinary critical praise. Sam's portrayal of Foss, a man of extraordinary creative genius and equally extraordinary personal destructiveness, was widely considered one of his finest performances, earning him a Primetime Emmy Award nomination. Also in 2019, he appeared in Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi's audacious anti-hate satire set in Nazi Germany, playing Captain Klenzendorf. The film won the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay and was nominated for Best Picture. In 2020, he provided a voice role in the animated DreamWorks film Trolls World Tour and voiced Ivan the Gorilla in the Disney Plus film The One and Only Ivan. In subsequent years, he continued to pursue diverse projects with the same energy and selectivity that has always defined his career. He appeared in See How They Run in 2022, a comedic murder mystery set in the world of 1950s West End theater. He appeared in Argylle in 2024. And he continued his theater work, appearing on Broadway in a revival of American Buffalo, for which he earned a Tony Award nomination for his portrayal of the grifter Teach. In 2025, he appeared in Predator, Badlands in a role that was kept tightly under wraps before the film's release, adding yet another genre and tonal register to a filmography that now spans over 3 decades of relentlessly varied and consistently excellent work. Personal life: Sam Rockwell has been in a relationship with actress and model Leslie Bibb since 2007, when they met on a film set. The couple is known for being private and for genuinely supporting each other's careers. When asked about the secret to their relationship in 2017, Leslie famously answered with characteristic directness, while Sam gave a more measured response, a dynamic that seems to characterize the partnership well. They have chosen not to have children. Sam has described himself in interviews as a confirmed bachelor who is not ready for family life, though his relationship with Leslie has clearly defied that self-description in the best possible way. He is left-handed. He is a passionate tap dancer who has incorporated his dancing into multiple performances throughout his career. He is an accomplished painter who has exhibited his artwork in galleries. He collects and restores vintage cars. He brings an improvisational energy and playful intensity to his work that makes him one of the most uniquely enjoyable performers to watch in any medium. His net worth is estimated at approximately $30 million, built entirely through his extensive filmography and selective professional choices over more than 30 years of work. That is the complete and detailed life history of all 3 actors: Elle Fanning, Demetrius Schuster-Kaloamatangi, and Sam Rockwell. 3 extraordinary people from 3 completely different worlds, brought together by one of the most ambitious science fiction films of 2025. Each of them has a story worth knowing, and now you know all 3. If this video gave you something valuable, if you learned something you did not know before about these remarkable people, please hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love this kind of deep and detailed content. If you are new here and you want more breakdowns, biographies, and behind-the-scenes deep dives like this one, hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. Which actor's story surprised you the most? We read every single comment. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.